My YouTube up. I see him live on Insta. All right, y'all. Intrepid Songwriter here, chronicling my adventures as a songwriter. Because seriously, who does that? Nobody does that. So what we're here to talk about today is two different things. First thing we're talking about is, did you see this week that Avid Technology, the people that make Pro Tools, are selling. They're going to get bought out by an affiliate of STG or Symphony Technology Group. They're a private equity firm. That's right. They're buying Avid. They're buying the company that makes Pro Tools. I don't know if y'all saw that this week. Now, what's the first thing that we need to ask ourselves when we hear about this company being bought out? Here it comes. What we need to know is, are they going to do better with legacy support? Are they going to do better with legacy support? Is it going to be a situation now where you buy a rig or you buy any gear or you buy anything, and every time they update or change the technology, they give you a chance to update yours as well through a legacy plan? Or are they going to require that you have to rebuy everything every time the technology changes? That's very, very important. Very, very important that you understand that. So Avid being bought is going to send major waves through the music industry if they change anything, because Pro Tools is still the industry standard. Which leads me to the other thing I want to talk to you about today very briefly, and that is, do you know how to future-proof your studio? Have you ever heard that phrase? Anybody ever taught you about that? Do you know how to future-proof your studio? Because you need to future-proof your studio. What I mean by that? I mean, you need to, when you make an investment in any level of studio, any level of your rig, it's quite a bit of money. And so what you want to happen is you want that to be maximized over the length of time you use all that gear and all that software. You don't want it to where you have to update or buy or upgrade or change whatever, every year or every 6 months or whatever, because that's just not cost effective. And plus, as you know, when you do anything major to your studio, it's time consuming, especially if you got a bunch of spaghetti wires behind and you got to go back on your spaghetti wire and you didn't know how to label your wires when you're setting your studio up. So, that takes a lot of time. And so you know that if you've ever done that. So the way to future-proof your studio is, number one, decide what the centerpiece is. Did you build your studio around like a recording board, any type of analog board, or did you build your studio around a computer? That's huge. Okay, much more expensive to buy a board, but a board can do what it does because a friend of mine said that technology changes, but frequencies never do. That's right. But if you built around a computer, then the day's going to come where either the computer gives out or they upgrade the software to a new version that's no longer compatible with the computer that you're using. So you have to keep that in mind when you're building your studio around a computer. Now, I told you before, the most important thing to put your money in is in your interface. Put your money in your interface, your converters. That's the most important part of your sound. Is how is the analog turning to digital and vice versa? How good is that process? Okay. But the next thing you have to ask yourself is, if you do most to all of your mixing in the box, is what kind of plugins are you buying? Because if you're buying boutique plugins or you're using free plugins that have no support, you got to enjoy them while you have them, but one day they're going to get phased out, or one day they're just going to age out, and you're not going to be able to replace them. What you need to do is you need to understand all of the functions and fall in love with the functions, so that if you have to change the brand, you have less problem. You need to understand how distortion is created. That's what I mean. You need to understand what compression is and what it does. That's what I mean. You need to understand what EQing is and what it does. Because that will never change. But if you buy boutique plugins, or you got free plugins, or plugins where there's no support, or plugin where the company gets bought out or goes out of business, then you're just going to be out of luck. So you need to understand each one of those functions. So if you have to change brands, you can do so much more easily than someone that just fell in love with a brand and fell in love with their sound, and then you get a hold of a bunch of other stuff, and now you don't know what to do. Okay? You must have backups in all that you do. I'm still amazed at the amount of people that don't have backups. You need to have backups for your backups. Excuse me. You need to have multiple backups for what you're doing in the studios because you cannot afford to lose any of that data. So you need backups in the cloud, and you need physical backups in hard drives and any flash drives, whatever you can get your hands on. Okay, to future-proof your studio. And then finally, if you're going to buy a computer, do you know how to buy a computer? No, I do not have the hiccups in the middle of this live video. Okay, do you know how to buy a computer? You have to buy a computer based on not just RAM. Lord have mercy. Everybody thinks it's RAM. It's not RAM, it's clock speed. What's the clock speed of the computer? Because that's what's going to, that and the RAM are what's going to determine how many plugins you can run simultaneously. Because that's one of the biggest challenges we run into once you start mixing everything in the box, is that when you have all your plugins on all your channels and you have all your plugins on all your mix bus and you got everything going, can the computer handle all that? So you have got to buy a computer where that answer is yes. It's not just RAM, it's clock speed. So that whatever you tend to mix with, whatever your rig tends to be with mixing, when you get everything going like you like it, does the computer have enough power to handle that? If that answer is yes, then if you buy a solid computer, it will last you for years to come because you won't be faced with a project that you can't adapt to. But if you get called on to do a project and then your computer starts choking, what are you going to do? You're going to be out of luck once again. And I don't want you to get to that point. And I don't want you ever to be in a point. Another thing is if you use boutique hardware, like my favorite example is boutique guitar pedals. Man, I love boutique guitar pedals. You know what you should do if you find a company that you really like that hand makes the pedals? You should buy more than one. I know that's not what you thought I was going to say. I know you're like Intrepid Songwriter. That's not good for our budget, but that's what you need to do because the day's going to come where either the company goes out of business or gets bought or just drops support for those pedals. And when those pedals are handmade, each one of them is one of a kind. So you want to buy more than one. You want to load up if that's what you're into. So you can have backups, so you can have similar stuff, so you can get as much from that company while they're there as you can. That's how I'm talking about ways that you future-proof your studio so that you don't have to tear everything down, spend however much money, and do it all over again just a few years from now. Because this kind of stuff happens. That's why I want to talk about even at the highest levels, the biggest companies get bought out. Okay, so if they change anything major with this buyout, Lord have mercy, the ripples it's going to send, what it's going to do to the recording community. And if they don't increase and get better legacy support, and they tell you next year you got to buy everything all over again. So what you need to learn how to do is future-proof your studio. That's what we talked about today. Okay? That's it for this broadcast. I'm going to be off next week, maybe for the next 2 weeks on summer break. So won't be live next week, but I'm giving you plenty of content to chew on. So be sure to watch these videos. Remember to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring the bell so you know when I go live and I drop new content. Okay? So again, I'll be off the next week or two for summer break, but I will let you know when I'm going to be back on with more lives on Friday. All right? Enjoy the rest of your summer. Intrepid Songwriter, out.